Hello, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. I see the 17 people joined, so it's maybe I think we should get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this Wednesday afternoon in Central Time, and about the students' textbook reading. How exciting, the title of the sessions, textbook. I'm Jane Russell, the director of the Office of Teaching and Learning Technology, Research Analytics at University of Iowa.
I'm Ji Guo. I'm a learning analytics specialist at the Office of Teaching, Learning and Technology, Research and Analytics.
And my name is Bryce Damon. I'm a graduate research assistant for the Office of Teaching, Learning and Technology, Research and Analytics.
Okay, well, so we are very excited to talk about the instructional, the strategies to promote the student textbook readings. So textbook is the one of the key pieces of curriculum materials in higher education, as we know. And it has been played a central role in students' learning in many college courses. And most of the faculty assign the textbook reading prior to the classrooms, so the students can have relevant background knowledge of the topics. So when they come, they can engage in lecture and discussion. So students also can perform well. But however, students' reading has become the challenge and concern to many faculty members, and a handful of the studies reported the similar concerns. And many students don't do the assigned reading. So one study reported only 1/4 of the students complete the assigned readings, and other studies reported that many students actually they don't read prior to the class, and only 27% of students read before class, and over 70% of students rarely or never read on schedule. And Hoft study reported that 46% of students read, but only half of them were able to demonstrate the basic level of the comprehension. So apparently, students don't value textbook as a primary source of the information. So what do faculty do? And many of them implement strategy to guide and promote the students' readings. And here are some strategies studies suggested. Providing guided reading questions and having students submit learning journals and doing reading quiz, and also testing over the materials found in the textbook, but not covered in class. And one study also suggested assigning short reading assignments if you want your students to read the textbook. So why and how do we start this research? So one thing is, previous studies rely on students' self-reported responses on whether they read or not. So we wanted to conduct the research that students' reading can be validated by data. And also higher education becomes significantly interested in digital materials, including open education resources, to address the issues arising from the textbook affordabilities and accessibilities and encourage instructors to adopt it. So understanding how students use a textbook and effective strategies to students the reading will be beneficial to for many faculty members. And also the Unizin offers Engage eTextbook platform to Unizin institutions. And also Unizin offered a help to collect the students' Engage eTextbook data. So this is how we could start this research. So these are 4 research questions we try to answer for these sessions. So first, our questions is, do students read assigned textbook? That's our first two questions. Do students read? And second questions relate to strategies. Do students read more in the course where instructors implement the strategies compared to a course with no strategies? And third questions, what strategies do faculty use to promote and guide the students' reading? And lastly, among various strategies, which ones actually work, which ones are associated with our students' reading? So in order to answer those our research questions, this is our research design. So this is a multi-institutional research because we like to include as many classes as possible. And then we had a survey for instructors to obtain the critical information about the strategies, whether they used the strategy or not. If they did, what strategies they used to promote the students' reading. And also assign the reading, assign the pages, because we don't believe a whole textbook assigned to students to read. So we like to see whether students read assigned readings, not whole textbook. So instructors who teach undergraduate courses and also use Engage for their e-textbooks, they are eligible to participate in this research. So when they participate in this research, we provide a $30 Amazon gift card for compensate their time. So, and then the other is a student's data is from the instructions, interactions with the e-textbook, and this will be the identified data. So we have the two different data. One is from instructors about the course and strategies, and the other is students' data in the courses. So this is the research procedure. First, the University of Iowa, the PI, we developed the study materials, including the research invite and also survey to get those information from the instructors, and send out this course materials to Engage coordinator of each institutions, peer the institutions, and Engage coordinator, they forwarded that the research invite to their instructors who teach undergraduate courses and also use Engage for their e-textbook. So after we collect instructor responses from survey, we can identify which courses and then extract those course IDs, provide to Unizin. So Unizin can collect those students' e-textbook data of the course the instructor participated, and then de-identify all students' data before they hand to us. So this research started fall 2019. So in fall 2019, we recruit about 40 instructors. And then we plan to recruit again the spring 2020, but we had a pandemic happen. So we decide to skip the spring 2020 because this pandemic, pandemic can impact the students' reading. So we don't want to have some abnormal data. So we decide to skip those spring semester. So instead of a spring, we decide to recruit the summer 2020. So in summer 2020, about 42 instructors from the 3 institutions participated. And then today, the data and all the results findings we present is only the summer 2020, because we had a few issues in fall 2019 data. So we wanted to resolve the issues before we analyzed the fall 2019 data. So this is strictly about the 42 instructors, the courses from the 3 institutions in summer 2020. So among the 42 instructors, this is the courses, different disciplines. So around 60% is from the STEM and the social science, the disciplines, and then some the business and the humanities, and then social sciences. And there are one other that indicate as a media. Average enrollment is 22 and the range from 4 to 63 students. And since this is the summer course, and then after pandemic, all these courses and happened virtually. So there's the online courses. And then in the survey, we asked one question: how important is students reading in this course? And then this is the instructor's answers. So most of them indicate that reading textbook is important. And then next, Bryce is going to explain what is the eText data. Also, he's going to present some of our the results.
Yeah, so for the eText data, for what we used for our analysis, it was composed of 815 different students, and we had 41 e-textbooks across 40 courses. So we had one course that utilized 2 textbooks. On average, for each course, we had an average number of assigned pages of 343 pages, with the range between 35 and 646. And in this data that we used, we had over 500,000 total events, nearly 400,000 navigation events. So navigation events are simply students moving from one page to another. So it's always recording that. Viewed events, around 133,000. That's for viewed events is a student stays on a page for at least 10 seconds. Once that happens, then it's recorded as a view event. Annotation events, that's when the student would either bookmark a page or highlight a section on a page. And then print events are just simply the student taking a page and printing it out to make a physical copy. And then so there was some processing involved in getting to the data in this sort of form. So first we matched the local time zone for each university because our universities were spread across different time zones. So, and the reason we did that was because we wanted to exclude events that occurred before or after the semester, or at least, at the very least, before the start or end of a course. We also excluded students who had a number of print events that was greater than the number of viewed events when it came to assigned pages, simply because we couldn't confirm if those students were printing those pages just to read them later. And if they did, we don't know if they actually did read them. And then we also had 2 courses removed due to the fact that we could only match student reading based on what the assigned pages were for a course, but for 2 courses, we didn't have that information. So the results, so first we'll look at the results for our first question: do students read the assigned textbook? So first, looking at an overall for every single course, so for 815 students, we had a percent reading range of 0 to 100%. So we had at least one person who read all of their assigned pages. We had 766 readers. In this case, we define reader as a student with at least one viewed event, and that composes 94% of our total students. And on average, a reader would read about 24.5% of their assigned reading. So on the right, we just simply have a histogram showing the distribution of the different, for each student, showing the different counts, so for each kind of grouping of what we have for total percentage of pages, assigned pages read. And it's a very right skewed distribution. Most of the observations that we see here fall within between 0 and 20%. So definitely a low level of reading for most students. Another thing that we were interested in was just simply looking at the difference between those who read at least 50% of the assigned pages and those who didn't. So about 20% of students read at least 50% of their assigned pages. And on average, we noticed that if they read at least 50%, then they definitely read more than 50%. On average, they read about 71% of their assigned pages. But another thing we noticed was that for students who read less than 50% of their assigned pages, they on average read only about 14%. So very, very low. And then we also looked at average reading percentage simply by discipline. So the highest that we saw was for health sciences at about 34.5%, and media, which was only one course, but we did see average percent there for each student being about almost 45%. And the disciplines where we kind of saw the lowest were in STEM courses and humanities courses. These were both just below and just above 20% in terms of average percentage read, just below our overall averages. And then this is just an example of a course that we see. So for instance, the attributes that make up this course include that the instructors thought that the importance of readings was at an extreme level. 25 students, on average, these students read about 40.68% of the total readings, and 10 students met the criteria of reading at least 50% of the assigned pages. And so on the right, what we have is an assignment by assignment sort of graphing of participation and how much students read throughout the semester. So for instance, for assignment 1, about all students had at least one view event for pages that were within assignment 1. And on average, they read about just over 60% of those assigned pages. And typically, as you go on later in the semester, what we saw with most courses was that as you went later on, you saw both a decline in participation and also to the average percent of pages read.
Now we're on the path to dig into student reading behaviors a little bit more by taking time into considerations. So we are especially interested in how long students stay on each assigned textbook page. So we create a program to calculate time spent on assignment pages. Well, time assigned pages measures the time difference between two viewed events. For example, thinking about a student that just opens his textbook on, let's say, on page 100, and 3 minutes later, he turns his book to the page 101. Then our program will record that this student spent 3 minutes to read page 100. Well, it is possible that student might be distracted during the 3 minutes between two viewed events. Like they may go grab a coffee, refresh Instagram photos, or respond to Facebook messages. They may also navigate to other pages during the time between, in the 3 minutes. That's why we actually categorize the time spent on assigned reading pages into two categories. One is less than 1 minute, and also more than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute means that the student who devote less than 1 minute between two viewed events. Well, depending on the course, the discipline, and also student reading skills, on average, students spend about 2 minutes to read one textbook page, regardless of the comprehension level. Among all viewed events, in our case, about 40.5% of the instances that a student stay less than 1 minute on the assigned textbook pages, and also about 60% of instances that students stay more than 1 minute on the assigned text page. Well, this suggests that a student may just glance at 40% of the assignment pages, even they spend more, more than 1 minute on some textbook pages. We know the distraction may occur. Then let's dig a little bit deeper to look at the first time read and the subsequent times read. Well, first time read means you read the page for the first time, and the subsequent times read, that means you come back to read the page again. Our data shows that among all pages, students spend less than 1 minute, like the left bar. Half of them are first time read pages, and the other half are subsequent times read. If students spend more than 1 minute to read those pages, 58 of the instances occurs when they read those pages the first time, and 42 of the instances that they read the page in more, you know, they come back and read those pages. And here is the same one with the discipline. So we can see, so we have 6 different disciplines: business, health sciences, humanities, media, social science, and STEM majors. So we can see the second one, the health sciences, has the least number of pages students read in less than minutes, and of course, they spend more than minutes to read those textbook pages. In the health science, the percentage is higher, and also among other subjects, the range is between 40% to 45% for those students who read, who spend less than a minute, and more than a minute, of course, one minus 40%, that's around 60%. Now let's get back to Bryce. So we're gonna look into some other research questions.
Yeah, so now we're going to move on to our second question regarding whether or not students read more, depending on if an instructor implements strategy in a course versus if they don't implement any strategies. So this is a bit to look at, but I'll try and walk through what it is. So on the left, we have a box plot. This is just simply the same values that we used in the histogram from before, but basically now we've had it broken down by whether or not that student was in a course that used core strategies or did not use core strategies. And if you're familiar with anything with box plots, you know that dots that are outside of that sort of range, those represent possible outliers. And so what we're noticing with this box plot is that for the no group, it's more so centered kind of around 10, maybe 11, 12%. And generally any sort of, and like the range is kind of a bit more constricted within that sort of 0 to 20% that I discussed earlier. While for the yes group, all values fit within its range, and that we also have a wider range, and it appears too that it might be more centered kind of closer to that average that we showed over for the overall group. So now looking at, So now looking at the right side, we have a table breaking things down by the no and yes group. So 9 courses didn't have strategies, 31 did use strategies, 213 students in the no group, 602 in the yes group. And between those two groups, again, readers are just simply students with at least one viewed event. We see that we have a slightly higher proportion of students in the yes group who are readers versus those in the no group. And one interesting thing that we've noticed is the fact that for average percent of pages read for readers in both groups, that along with readers who read at least 50% of the assignments, that we're seeing that in the yes group, it is almost the proportions for those two groups are almost double what we see, or are over double what we see for the no group. So it definitely appears at first glance that implementing strategies might have an effect on reading the assigned readings. And then returning back to the question we asked related to importance of reading. So the way to read this is just simply the different bars that are different shades of gray. Those are just simply, as we darken them, that increases the level of importance. And those just are simply the counts as shown on the left axis. And then on the right axis, the black dots represent the average percent of pages read for that group. So for instance, in the extreme importance group for the yes category, the average percent of pages read was just slightly over 40%. While for, let's say, the moderately important group for the no category, we see it's roughly around 20%, and the same for very important for the no group. So for the no group, we don't really see any sort of, I'd say, real pattern. And I think this is reason for this just simply because we have a lower sample size. We only have 9 courses total in here, and we only have one slightly important, one extremely important. But for the yes group, it definitely, again, at first glance, looks like that by implementing reading strategies that, since we have dots going higher and higher, that indicates to us that as importance of readings goes up, so does the average percent of pages read. So it definitely, at first glance, looks like implementing strategies may in fact boost reading percentages for a course. And I'll give it to Jane now.
Okay, so our third question is, what strategies do faculty use to promote the students' reading? So these strategies instructors have reported they use in their course. And as the literature suggests, the reading quiz actually most popular, reading quiz and also the exam questions specific to the reading is the most popular strategies the instructor used. 78% of the course who use the strategy, they used these two strategies. And next popular strategy was the homework based on the readings. And then the other one is providing the reading prompts and questions to guide the students' reading. And some other thing is the individual projects based on the readings, and also asking specific questions about the reading during the lecture. And also having the class and group discussion of the reading. And also have them submit the reading report and journals. Some courses use that strategy. And also there was the course that said the group project based on the reading. They also use that, that strategy. So the interesting thing is instructors use multiple strategies. So not only specific, the one strategy they used, no, they used several strategies to really guide and promote the students' reading. And average number of strategy the instructor reported is 4. And a range is 2 strategy to 9, all of them. The one instructor reported they use this, all 9 of them, to really help the students guide their reading. And so we also ask a question about, do they communicate to students how importance of the reading? And they say yes. So a lot of the instructors said that they give the reminding students to the reading. Every reading, they said they reminded their students. And also they have the, frequently they have a conversation with the students emphasizing how important of the reading in order to succeed this class. And as a lot of many instructors reported, they use both. They really communicate the reading is important. And the fewer courses reported, they didn't have a communication, this one with their students. So what we learn is instructors use the many strategies combined, and also have really diligently have a conversation with the students how important the reading, and also remind them constantly. So our last question. So among those various strategies, which ones are actually associated with the students' reading? So our answer to this question, it's hard to tell. Because the one reason is the instructors use the multiple strategies, not only one. And even though they use the same strategy by different instructors, they implement it differently. So some instructors use the reading quiz graded, and some instructors as ungraded. And also some instructors use the reading quiz inside of a classroom meetings, and some of them is outside of a classroom. And then some instructors use the reading quiz for every reading, and some instructors said they use it just once a month. So they implement the same strategy in different contexts. So that's something we have to look into it. And also we feel that we have to account course characteristics, which is the discipline or course size that might be affect the students' reading, and also amount of assigned reading. And as the Bryce mentioned, is the range of the assigned pages from the 35 to 600 pages. So we have to kind of see those small assigned pages was the more students read more than the large portion of the assigned readings. So let's look at some example. So this is the comparison of the two course. So this table, each table represents one course. So let's look at the left side. And this one course has 25 students. And all 25 students have the viewed events, which is we consider they read at least one page of the assigned readings. And the average percent of the read is 75%. So this is pretty high. And then assigned pages, 313 pages assigned this course. And this is from the health sciences discipline. And look at the other right side of a class. It's 11 students, which is a much smaller class, but only 8 of them had one viewed event, which is 8 of them they read. And then average percent of read is 5%, little over 5%. And their assigned pages is 280 pages, which is fewer than the other course. And this discipline is from the business. Okay, so this is the outcomes of student percent, average percent of the read. But look at their strategy, what strategy they used. Both courses used 4 different strategies, and 2 of them are exactly same. They had a homework based on readings, and also they provide every reading, reading prompts and questions for every reading. But the other 2 strategies were different. One is the reading journals and individual projects based on reading, but the other one is provide a reading quiz and have the exam questions on the readings. And the other one also have some communication with the students, emphasizing importance of readings and remind the students to the reading. But look at this, especially when we compare these 2 courses, it has really different outcomes of the student percent of the read. But the strategy they used is the 4 strategies they used, and 2 of them are exactly same strategy used. Let's look at the next example. And this example, so these 2 courses are very similar. So this course has one course has 13 students, and the other one is 17. It's a smaller course, small courses. And then readers are 13, and the 17, which is 100% of students at least had one viewed event. But their average percent of the read is 7% versus 45%. And then assigned pages are very similar. 175 pages was assigned, and the other was 197 pages assigned. And they both are same discipline, social sciences. But look at their strategies. And the one course used only 2 strategies, and the other is 4 strategies. But 2 strategies are exactly same. So is this because of a more strategy or some combination of the strategies? So we feel like, at this moment that we have to really look more and understand the context and the course characteristics to really identify the effective strategy to associate a student's percent of the read. Okay, so I notice that there is some questions, but we'll finish this the presentation, and then we'll answer those questions. So preliminary findings is still that we have a lot to do, but this preliminary findings that we feel students typically don't read assigned readings. And our studies found fewer students read and lower percentage of the assigned readings than previous studies found from the students' self-reported responses. So our students, this research is validated by the data. So we found fewer students. So only 1/5 of students read over 50% of assigned reading, not only 100%, so over 50% of the assigned readings. And 3 out of the 4 students read on average only 14% of assigned readings. And about the 40% of assigned pages were read in less than 1 minute. This is concerning. I don't know how you feel like. And also we found, we think the students read more in courses where instructors implemented strategies compared to courses with no strategies. And also the students read more in courses where instructors consider reading is important when strategies are used. And also there was we found that really instructors use multiple strategies to promote the students reading, and instructors do a lot to really help the students reading, but still students reading is concerning. So next, I'm going to explain a little bit challenges we had to have this research. First challenge is recruiting instructor participation. So if no instructor participation, we are not going to have any students data. And that's one challenge, first challenge. And second challenge is even though they participated, we have to have a really accurate information from the instructors, such as assigned pages. And as you see, we had to drop the 2 courses that even though instructor participated, because that 2 course instructor submit assigned reading, not summer 2020. We see that is the spring 2020 instead of summer 2020. So they submit the assigned readings, but it was a wrong semester, so we could match with the students' data. And also we ask about the time of the class meetings, so we can actually measure students reading prior to the class meeting or not. So if instructors that they don't provide that information, there's that questions can be answered. Also, I can identify, so de-identify the student data set. Since we are getting de-identify the students data set, and the Unizin, I assume the Unizin will have a lot of work to identify those students, because the request is only students data who complete the course. So we don't want to include the students who drop the course. And then also we only count the students who opt in, the engage. So I assume the Unizin had to consider all those the factors to filter out to have the really good data before they hand to us. And also we had the page alignments. And then we found out those engaged eTextbook platform, the pages students click actually is different pages the instructor reported to us. So there is the gap. So we had to figure out some strategy how we can align those pages. And also print events. And as the Bryce said, there is some print events. And then if we see the students had the print events that assign the pages, and then we assume that maybe students print out to intend to read, but actually we don't know that they read or not. So should we include those print events or totally exclude the print events? That's something we have to make the decision. And this analysis, we exclude all the users to the analysis when they have those print events is more than those viewed events. And before we talk about the next, I think I'm going to answer these questions the Heather posted. Did the instructors rate the importance of the readings? Yes. Yeah. So that's why we have to ask about the 5 different questions. One is extremely important, very important, important and slightly important, and not at all important. So there was no instructor indicate not at all important. I think the lowest rating instructor indicate was slightly important, but most of them indicate is very important. And sometimes they are alternative media of the same content as the lectures, so less important. So that's I understand by most of them they indicated is very important. Actually, a lot of them actually had a really big comments about how they each strategy implement and a lot of other things that they're doing to really promote the students. Okay, so what is next? Since this is preliminary, the findings, we have a lot more to do. So we have to examine the fall 2019 data after we clear out some issues among the data. And also we like to examine the navigation events. And as I mentioned, navigation events is the recorded when students stay the page less than 10 seconds. So we assume the student is just flipping the pages between viewed events. So we like to know how they associate with the navigation events to assign the pages. So they really the access assign the pages, but they didn't stay to 10 seconds. So that's what we have to figure out. And also there is the other events for annotation, which is the bookmark and highlights. And then we like to know how students use those reading tools while they're reading. And also we had another questions, do students read prior to class meetings? Right? So what we found the findings is the percent of students read is any time of the point during the semester. So if we look at the only do students read prior to student meetings, we assume it's gonna percentage read page is gonna be really lower than any time point of the semester, but that's something that we like to find out. And lastly, I really like to express my gratitude to Unizin and the peer institutions, Indiana University, University of Nebraska, Colorado State University, and University of Iowa, all the engaged coordinators and other people who really providing resources and significant help to make this research possible. So I really like to express my gratitude to Unizin and our peer institutions. So there is a questions. Some proportion of the comparison have the small sample sizes. I suggest the non-parametric, the proportion comparison to determine the whether two proportion under comparison are significantly different. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thank you for those suggestions. And that we didn't do any hypothesis testing yet. And that we, still we are working on and understanding this data. And after we understand the whole data set, that's something that we are gonna do the hypothesis testing with some other statistical the method to really identify there is a really significant effect for among those that different strategies or not after we consider all the course characteristics and then other assigned readings, other variables. That's our plan. Any other questions? So then I guess that this session, I think it's still we have 5 minutes. Can you share the PowerPoint presentation? Of course, yeah, we will share the PowerPoint presentation. Also that we had a plan to a lot more work during the summer. So after summer, we will have the more the detailed findings and some other implementation that we like to make available to units in schools.
Jen, there's another question from Rihanna Campbell. Just to verify, you would have had to filter out the instructor using publish your digital learning tools courseware for this, correct?
Which one is it?
The one before you share the PowerPoint.
Okay. Filter out the instructor using publisher digital learning tools. So this is the only the Engage eTextbook platform. Yes, so it's not other, we don't include other publisher digital learning tools. Correct, yes.
Yeah, every data comes from Unizin Engage platform. They provided all the type of the data.
Okay, thank you so much to your interest in the e-textbook readings. I thought it's really boring and we're not going to have that many people to interested, but thank you so much to coming our sessions, and I will make the PowerPoints available to you. Thank you.